Namaste everyone, it's the Chess Puzzler. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Today we are going to discuss one of the most dominant attacking themes called Greek gift sacrifice. The idea behind the Greek gift is for us to exploit the unmoved H pawn with the help of the kingside castle enemy king, bishop being able to attack on the H7 giving check, a knight that can come on G5 to continue the check giving process, and finally allowing the king to jump to H5 and joining the party. Bringing all this together, this is what we have. King takes on H7, knight G5 check, king goes back to G8, the queen joins the party with the idea of queen H7 checkmate. So the rook will move away to give an escape square to the king. Now we will just play queen F7, pushing the king to the corner, and will play a dynamic move H4. Not only does this help add a pressure on the enemy king, but it also helps us prevent the backrack mate. I am going to present three puzzles today. The first two we will solve together, but the third one is for you to take home and reply back with your solution in the comments section. It's a first puzzle, white to move. Please think of all the variations and come back when you're ready. We'll start with bishop taking on h7. King will take back on h7. You may wonder what happens if the king would just move to h8 without taking on h7. This is actually very bad for black because it exposes the h file which the queen can come and exploit. And also, the knight can join the party. After, say, something like g6, we will bring our queen. It may try to push our queen away, but we'll just move to the h file, which is semi-open. And the moment we clear the bishop away from the h file, it's going to be a very brutal attack on the h7 square because of the bishop, the knight, and the queen attacking exactly where the enemy king is. The black will try to bring its pieces on the king side, but it's going to be too slow because after bishop g6, king goes to g8, we will simply castle and we will have our rook, we will have our bishop, we will have our knight, and also the other rook, everybody joining the party and attacking the black king, while the black minor pieces are far away from where they should be. So to avoid all this, black will simply take on h7, knight g5, king g8, and queen h5. The idea is the same, to deliver a checkmate from h7. And if the black moves from if the black moves its rook, then we will take the f7 pawn first, and then continue the check from queen h7. The idea behind that was to push the black king to e7 so that we can deliver a checkmate from queen g7. So that's the reason why we first moved our queen to f7, cleared the pawn away, and then a check from h7, so that now queen would have a direct sight on the black king. With that, this is the puzzle number two. Please think of all the variations that you can using the Greek gift principles and come back when you're ready. Yep. Like always, we'll start with bishop h7, king h7, knight g5. Now, instead of the king going to g8, we are going to see what happens if the king just comes out in the open. King g6, queen g4. Black will try to push the queen away, but queen can simply just go to g3 and still keep the pressure on the black king. And if the pawn pushes to f4, we can simply take with our bishop, although it seems like black can easily take this back. We still will continue to have a lot of pressure on the g file where the black king is. For example, if the black takes on f4, we will simply just take on e6, which is going to be a discovered check, and we'll get the queen in the next move. And the same is applicable even if the black takes with a rook. We'll simply take on e6, and the queen is ours. So, to avoid those complications, Black will play something like queen e7. Will try to bring its minor pieces into the picture, but it's going to be too late for it to come for Black King's rescue. With that, I'm going to present the final puzzle of the day. This is for you to solve. Please think of all the different possibilities, all the different variations which are good or bad for white in this case. And it's a chess puzzler. Today, I am going to present the second installment of Greek Gift Sacrifice. Today, we are going to cover a few patterns on the chessboard where the sacrifice on the h2 or the h7 square are not really very feasible, and also some scenarios where the opponent can defend its king by moving not to g1 or g1, b1, b8, g8, but to come out and defend itself. In this case, for example, you'll see that the sacrifice not really bear fruit. Once bishop takes on h2, king takes on h2. After the check, the king just comes out to g3. What do you do next? You bring the queen to g5, trying to plot a discovered check once the knight moves. But then simply uh, the knight attacks the queen slides back, and the king moves out from the g file. There is no clear way how black can proceed in this particular pattern. And in fact, white is much better despite its king being out in the center. All the minor pieces and major pieces are aligned quite well. The rooks are connected, and they can just start pushing the pawns forward, and slowly the king can slide into somewhere on the back rank and protect itself. Right. In this example, I want you to figure out if the Greek gift sacrifice works or not. And if it does, what are the moves that will lead to a checkmate for white? So here, the Greek gift sacrifice actually works. Bishop h7, king h7, knight g5. King will come to g6. We've already seen what happens if the king goes to g8. It's not really good for the black king. The king comes to g6, followed by h4. It seems like a slow move, but it's not because it uh, protects the knight and also plans for an attack on the h file. Knight takes on d1 and h5. King will take on h5. The reason why we played this move is to bring the king further towards the center. g4, king goes back to g6, queen f5 check, king goes to h6, and we have a beautiful fork between the king and the queen. The only way it can prevent is by taking on f7, but then we'll get a rook for a knight. There's even a better move. Instead of taking on f7, you just play queen h5 and it's checkmate. In this case, it's white to move. Please figure out if the Greek gift sacrifice works in this case and if it's winning for white. Also, please think of all the variations, all the different moves that white and black can play, which can take the entire game in a different direction. All right, let's see. Bishop sacrifices on h7, king takes, knight g5. Now, instead of king g8 or g6, king will play h6, right? And we will push our pawn forward for the possibility of a discovered check once the knight moves. And if, say, the pawn takes, we can still just move our knight to f7, forking the king and the queen. And because and the queen is ours for the taking because black will have to move its king in this case. Now, instead of f5, we can also simply play queen g4 with the intention of bringing the queen on the h file and creating a checkmate threat from h7 because it is protected by our knight. To prevent this, black will play knight f5. So we will simply slide to h3, king g6, and queen h7 checkmate. Fourth puzzle of the day. In this case, it's again white to move. Please figure out how can white leverage the Greek gift sacrifice. in case if the king moves to h6 after the check from the knight. Okay, like always, we will start with sacrifice on h7, knight g5, king comes to h6 as we discussed. Now the idea is for our queen to move to g4 and come on the h file and attack from the h file because of our knight, which is going to prevent the h7 square primarily. Let's see how that works. Queen g4. So the opponent king tries to take our weak pawn on e3, but we have other things to attend to. King g6, queen h7, and now we did give our knight away, but for a greater cause. h4, king g4, queen g7, queen h6. The knight will take. It seems like black is winning, but after a couple of moves, black actually gets checkmated. Rook f4, the only place where the king can go is g3, and queen h4 checkmate. Now, after the check from knight g5, as always, king can also go to g6, which is also going to be detrimental for black. Queen g4, queen d2. Now, because of the discovered check, we can simply move our knight away and attack one of the attack the rook that's on f8. King moves. We have a better check from g5. The only place where the king can go is h7, followed by checkmate, queen g7. Another variation would be after queen goes to h6, instead of knight taking on h4, the queen can take on e3, giving a check, but that just means that the black queen got sacrificed for no real good. Right, the final chapter of the day, the final puzzle of the day. Please figure out if the Greek gift sacrifice in this case works or not. The hint, pay attention to the pawn already present on h4. All right, let's see. The h4 pawn over here is actually going to be the reason why white will not be able to deliver a beautiful checkmate. King takes on h7, knight g5. Now, since we have this h4 pawn already in place, the queen cannot go to g4 and then h4. Therefore, to prevent a check, black has to do just one thing, that is move the king to h6. So the white queen will try some other ways to deliver a checkmate. That's by moving to the h7 square, but simply g6 can stop it at h5. Although this looks like a complicated position, black is actually quite safe and it's not in any immediate threat of a checkmate. Instead of queen d3, queen can also play queen takes on d4. The idea remains the same. The queen will try to move to h file one way or the other, but it's just going to be quite difficult to penetrate because of the h7 pawn. Today we are going to cover the third and the last installment of the Greek gift sacrifice. This is a bit advanced, and you'll also see some scenarios, some patterns where the Greek gift sacrifice does not work. Let's dive right into the example and some. Namaste everyone, it's the Chess Puzzler. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Today we are going to cover the third and the last installment of the Greek gift sacrifice. This is a bit advanced, and you'll also see some scenarios, some patterns where the Greek gift sacrifice does not work. Let's dive right into the example and some problems. In this scenario, we don't see any such piece, so it is very likely for it to be a checkmate. That could be sort of a rough thumb of rule. We start with the sacrifice on h7, just the standard Greek gift sacrifice moves. Queen comes to h5. Black will try to remove all the pieces which are helping white deliver a checkmate, but it's not going to be of much use because once the pawn moves to g6, we have A beautiful checkmate waiting at h7. And to prevent it, as we see, the black will try to bring its queen in between, but it's just a futile sacrifice, only leading to a checkmate later on. So there are three puzzles which I'm going to present today, some of which would be checkmates and some of which would not be a checkmate. Just keep in mind a few aspects of black's or the opponent king's structure that you need to keep an eye on to figure out if that helps the opponent prevent a checkmate. In this case, it's white to move. Please think of all the different variations and come back when you're ready. This is a very good example because we have a knight on e7, which is going to guard the g8 square, which may be a problem for white as it tries to deliver checkmate. Let's see how that comes into play. You start the sacrifice, knight g5, queen h5, all standard. The rook makes room for the knight to escape to f8 if required, and you'll take on you'll go on h7 to deliver a check. Because if you took on f7, king will go to h8, queen h5, rook g8, king g8, and once you deliver a check from h7, the king might just escape. So to prevent all of this, we have queen h7 check, king to f8, and the only way we can continue the checking process is by queen h8. And now the knight which was on e7 that comes to the king's rescue. Knight h7, king e7, bishop g5, king d7, and the queen is gone. So as you saw, the checkmate is inevitable for white. The black is going to get checkmated. That's inevitable. But a knight on e7 played an important role by guarding one of the checks, which could be beneficial in many scenarios had it not been a queen trade for a losing queen trade for black. Right? It's a second example. Once again, it's white to move. Figure out if the Greek gift sacrifice is going to be playable in this case. Is it going to work out for white or not? In this case, the Greek gift sacrifice is not going to work out because we have a light square bishop that is going to help defend the h7 square. Let's see how that comes into play. We start with the sacrifice. Knight g5, king h8, king g8, queen h5, and the bishop jumps to f5. It just means that we cannot go to h7 to deliver a check. And by the time we bring all our other pieces into play, it's going to be too late because black can do the same and defend the king. The final puzzle for you, figure out if the Greek gift sacrifice is going to work out for white, and if not, tell me why. In this scenario, the Greek gift sacrifice is not going to work out for white because of the knight, which can easily jump to f6 and prevent the h7 square. Let's see. Start with the sacrifice. The knight jumps on g5, king goes back to g8, queen h5, and there we go. I hope this video was quite instructive. With this installment, we are through with all the Greek gift sacrifice content ahead. I am going to continue creating quality videos on a lot of different puzzle themes. Stay tuned. Meanwhile, please like, comment, and subscribe on my channel and keep me honest. It's the Chess Puzzler signing out.